Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I hope everybody is doing great out there today. So we're going to get into part 4 on reloading 32 ACP. We're going to talk about the powder measure, powder charge, what powder we're using. Also too, seating the bullets, we'll get into that. And we'll just keep it to kind of one shorter video. The next video we'll talk about crimping and we'll see how that goes. And then we'll be out at the range to go ahead and start doing some testing and getting that going. So I'm excited about that. I'm ready to shoot these, definitely. You can see here on the right, I've already loaded some up that need to be crimped. So let's talk about a couple things. Well, first of all, with our powder charge right here, so the first thing was getting this all dialed in. You can see there that it's not a lot of powder, really. We're dealing with just over 2 grains of powder. So it's not a lot. I kind of have it spread out a little bit in the pan there, kind of like if we were gold panning or something. But really, if you kind of put it all together, it sure isn't a lot. And the one thing that everyone kind of cautions about is that, especially with this small case, it's kind of a different deal where maybe 1/10 of a grain in a much larger case might not make as much a difference. In these smaller cases, it potentially could make a big difference depending on how the powder is. There's some powders that seem to be a little more volatile than others, and some powders that seem to kind of go from being okay, at one load, and then you load up a slightly different charge and you get totally different performance going on. You can see the powder measure there is kind of freaking out after being on for so long here. But so the powder we're using is Tight Group, and I have a big old 8-pound jug of it here off camera. Actually, I think I bought this in 2014 and I'm still using it. The hilarious thing today with Biden inflation is that a 4-pound container of Tight Group now costs what I paid for this back in 2014. 8-pound container. So that's where we're at with things right now. Tight Group is a very economical powder overall, despite all that inflation there. And I find it to be relatively very stable. It has kind of a very low charge weight. I would say it's mostly ideal for target shooting. And I have had great success with it in 45 ACP and 9mm. I love using it. The one thing you do have to watch with different cases and stuff, because the charge weight is a bit lower, is that if you it's very easy compared to other powders, compared to like Unique, to actually double charge the case. So you kind of need to be aware of that. So here's some of the ones that we've loaded up. And actually, there's some Beretta magazines that I need to clean up for this this load that we're doing. But yeah, you can see not a lot of powder. Now, the one thing that I kind of ran into with this was that I kind of had to dork around with the powder measure a little bit. So let me just go ahead and have a look right here. But essentially, our little knobby there, had to kind of play with this kind of a fair bit to really get that dialed in, because the starting load that I wanted to go with was 2.1 grains, and it seemed to be kind of bouncing between 2 and 2.2, but it seems like now I think we're good to go. We've managed to get it to a place where after playing around with this and making all these little tiny micro adjustments, actually managed to get it into place, and I think we are good at 2.1 grains. So everything should be good. So my recommendation for folks out there, if you're watching me do this, basically the thing I found is it is a little more fiddle-farty than some other powders, and the powder measure also didn't seem to like dealing with kind of the lower charge weights, but after kind of playing with it a bit, we seem to have kind of everything squared away, and I think we should be good with no problems whatsoever. So now let's talk about actually seating the bullets and all the deal with that. Okay, so getting into seating the bullet now. First thing is that I was kind of concerned about in the last video is kind of finding that balance where we bell it enough to get the job done, but yet where we don't kind of overdo it. And I think probably I ended up overdoing it a bit. And the reason for that is that whenever you go to put it to run it up into the seating die, it's kind of making contact there initially, and you just have to kind of ease it up in there to seat the bullet, and it kind of drags on the die a little bit. So, you know, it's one of those things where, yep, just kind of ended up maybe overdoing it a little bit, but, you know, so, hey, no big deal. Next time I go to resize and then expand them, you know, I'll just go ahead and reduce the amount of belling that I do and try to come back a little bit. And again, the thing, you know, the concern is that with these bullets here, was that I did not want to run into any issues with stripping the plating and being able to basically have the bullet nice and square in the case and all that. So it's just one of those things that you need to play around with and figure out kind of what works for you, and you know, get it dialed in the way you need to. So at the end of the day, it just kind of scrapes a little bit going into this die, but we got it working okay. So, you know, it's fine. It'll work, and I think we'll be good at the end of the day. Then here's our Lyman seating die. It has been a little bit of a different experience compared to the Lee dies, but the Lyman dies, they seem to kind of work just fine. They just kind of have maybe a slightly different methodology about some of the stuff and how you make the adjustments and everything, but you know, pretty much really no problem setting it up. Probably the only thing I ran into was because we are dealing with such a small case here, is the overall length that I was kind of looking for. Did have to kind of fiddle fart around just trying to get it dialed in just exactly the kind of the way I wanted and the exact OAL that I wanted, because again, with such a small case, you're dealing with a little bit in terms of tighter tolerances, I'd say. And so that was just something I had to kind of work on a bit, but we got it done, and everything's cool. All right, so let's go ahead and we will charge a case and go ahead and seat the bullet. So the way I do it whenever I'm reloading is I just do one case at a time. I don't like to take a whole tray and then you know, try to fill up all the cases and have like 50 cases with powder in them and all that sort of stuff. So I just do one at a time. And also too, if I happen to get distracted, or like whenever I'm making a video like this and I'm talking to the camera while I'm doing my reloading, for instance, if for some reason my attention drops, and let's say I charge a case or don't charge a case, and I put it on there, and let's say I turn, look somewhere else, I'm not thinking about whatever, I always take the case, peek inside to make sure that I have my powder charged in there, or I haven't double charged it or whatever, and everything is good, and then I resume what I'm doing. So that's just kind of the way I do it. Whenever I started reloading, I saw on YouTube at the time, you know, that's how typically a lot of reloaders did it, was they just took the whole tray and, you know, loaded up 50 cases at once. I don't know. I didn't kind of like that system. Basically, it didn't work for me. But, you know, hey, whatever works for you, you know. So these 71 grain Berry's bullets, I hope they work out good, because the one thing that's great about them is they are readily available. I've had no problem finding them whatsoever. Even going to Cabela's and stuff and buying these, you know, even these 71 grain bullets, you'd figure it wouldn't be a typical kind of bullet for people to load, but didn't have any problem at all. Haven't had any problem at all finding them either online or in stores. So that's good. And also too, the other thing is they're relatively affordable as well. So I think right now the cost is like 8 cents per bullet or something. So, you know, for 8 cents, that's, you know, not a bad deal at all. So you figure the cost of the tight group. So the tight group I'm using Let's see, bought that in 2014 for the that 8-pound container. Bought that for 114 bucks. So, you know, only 2 grains of that. You'd have to do your math, but probably like a penny a powder, and then an 8-cent bullet, and then the primer. Those primers I picked up for 1.6 cents a piece. So yeah, I'm basically loading these up for like 10 cents a round, and then your brass, I guess, would factor into that. But so yes, I did buy this Starline brass. So that was 27 cents a case, I think, right now. So that's a little high. So yeah, I guess total cost would be probably about 40 cents a bullet, or a round. So, you know, let's see what's prices right now. I think it's like 33 bucks for like a box of 50 or something for 32 ACP. So you're saving money. But anyways, in terms of seating here, no big issues. The only thing is a little bit of a fiddle farting because you're dealing with these small little bullets in small little cases if you've got kind of big hands like me. So, you know, it's not like 45 ACP, for instance, you know, where you've got this big old case and a big old fat bullet, and it's much easier to manipulate. And then, you know, a little bit of an issue there, not too much, but in terms of, you know, for me, kind of overbelling the case a little bit, going up into the die. But, you know, next time I know just to kind of back it down just a little bit, and we should be perfect. So, you know, no problem at all at the end of the day, I think. And as I mentioned, I think before, we do not have this set up for crimping, so we will do crimping separately with the Rittig crimp die, and we'll also be using our Lee hand press to do that, because I don't want to have to undo my bullet seating die here. Now, the other thing too is I probably will at some point get one of those Rittig turret presses, and have one of those and put the rock chucker to the side, but we'll see. So anyways, everything is going pretty good. Also, let's check our case length here. And let's see. So this one here comes in at 0.974. We're pretty much aiming for 0.972. Let's check another case here. This one is also 0.974. And let's see. We are at 0.972, so that's where we want to be. So, yep. So, just check the die. Everything is still tight. So, a little bit of a variance there. So, I don't know if it's the bullet or the case or whatever, but I'm trying to keep it to 0.972. So, I did have a little bit kind of fiddle farting there, playing it around, trying to get it perfect. But I think most of them should come in that range, within a couple of thousandths there. So I think we should be okay at the end of the day. So plan next will be to do the crimping, and we will get the crimping all sorted. That'll be a separate video. Once the crimping is all sorted out, then we will go ahead and go to the range and start doing some testing. We'll check for function first. Hopefully everything works. Then we will go ahead and chronograph some of these, and then we will go ahead and just do a little bit of accuracy testing. And one thing I will get at some point is a pistol rest, to kind of take out the variable little more of the shooter. But then, you know, sometimes some folks just like to see it from a practical rolled perspective of just shooting it just freehand. And you know what accuracy you get out of that. So anyways, so looking forward to getting this project moving on, and then after this we will go ahead and transition to another powder, maybe try accurate number 2 and see how that works, and then we will maybe look at doing some other bullets too and see how much brass we have and all that. But if we don't get to all that this winter, you know, I shall return with it at some point. you know, we'll do another 32 ACP project down the road or whatever. But we still have a fair number of 32 ACP videos coming up in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. Definitely a lot happening. And we have 9mm shaking at the same time. And then 300 blackout plus some product reviews I'm working on, a few other videos as well. So if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, because we have to grow the channel. It's kind of hard to get out of the bowels of YouTube, so to speak. So definitely make sure that you subscribe, and that way we can help boost the numbers up a little bit and get more of these videos out there to a wider audience. So anyways, folks, appreciate you all. Hope you all are enjoying the videos, and we will see you next time.